it's really important to have respect for everybody, and I think people don't, they're very like hierarchical and stuff, and I think this is something that Rinpoche was really a master of, like, didn't matter, like I say, billionaire, beggar, left, right, whatever, same. And he truly gave the same love and attention to everybody, and this is like a winning combination.
Hello, and welcome to Life with a Lama Healer. Today, our guest is Lama Caroline. Drum roll, please. Lama Caroline is one of our main teachers, along with Lama Michel, who are the successors to Lama Ganchen Rinpoche and teaching Lamas retreats, methods, practices all around the world. And I feel so privileged to call Lama Caroline my friend, my teacher, and I'm so happy that she's joining us here today. So Lama Caroline was born in England, and as a child was really fascinated by science and space exploration, which led her to study physics at the University of London, where she also became really interested in Buddhism. And she met Lama Ganchen in 1991 and was really impressed by Lama's modern and open approach to spirituality. So she began to not only study with him, but also collaborate with him, being his translator, and then also writing down all his teachings and his words in the various retreats and Dharma practices. She has traveled all over the world with Lama Ganchen, working with him for the past 30 plus years, and is the main translator of Lama Ganchen's books. So she's a student and holds a certificate in Sanskrit and in Tibetan. And she now works with the University of Malaga in Spain, where Lama Caroline lives. And she spends her time really traveling all over the world, teaching, translating, guiding Nalso retreats, helping people with pastoral care, people who are dying or need special help. And she has a tireless, incredible enthusiasm to share Lama Ganchen's teachings and the wisdom teachings of the Buddha. And I've witnessed this for over 25 years, her boundless energy and enthusiasm to help others and give, the inner peace teachings to help people live a more peaceful, happy, joyful life. Please join me in welcoming Lama Caroline. Hello, and welcome to Life with a Lama Healer. We're really excited about this new podcast about the life of the great Tibetan Lama, Lama Ganchen Tulku Rinpoche, who was born in 1941 in Tibet and trained by many of the greatest Tibetan masters. He traveled to the West in the 1980s, bringing with him the inner peace teachings of the Buddha. Lama was one of the greatest living humanitarians and spiritual masters of our time, and part of an unbroken lineage dating all the way back 2,500 years to Shakyamuni Buddha. So our vision in creating this podcast is really to preserve and share the remarkable stories about Lama Ganchen's extraordinary life. We'll interview senior students and longtime followers who worked with Lama Ganchen, traveled with him, studied with him, witnessed and experienced his incredible healings and miracles. So these stories, they're really precious jewels and inspire us to really see what's possible when we follow the inner peace teachings of the Buddha. So it's a real honor and privilege to bring these stories to you and the methods that really help us to reframe our sufferings, which brings us more inner calm, the ability to be more in the present moment with less stress and anxiety and fear, and experience more joy in our life and more peaceful in our life and more meaning really in our life. So please stay tuned for our conversations from this very, very rich spiritual heritage coming out of Tibet and the incredibly joyful, inspiring, mind-blowing, funny, touching stories about the remarkable life of a Lama healer, our beloved Lama Ganchen. Life with a Lama healer. Lama Caroline, I'm privileged to have you as a guest on our show today. and really welcome. I'm so happy to be able to have this conversation with you.
Oh, it's a big pleasure, Lelia. I'm very happy we can do it.
Yes, really special that we can share these wonderful stories. And you have such a unique perspective, having lived and worked with Lama Ganchen for over 30 years and wrote his books. And please share with us how you first met Lama Ganchen.
Okay, 1 second. But first, I'm going to do a little prayer, like to do a little.
Oh, yes, please.
Luciosam popelgiuta shipa tu gentem petrin leanoda pegedrolosam pese percen pelden la mehesha blasovate Oma guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shahasane Kama Uttavadanye Sri Bhadra Vasamanya Sawasidi Okay, this is a little prayer to connect with Rinpoche.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, so how did you first meet Lama Ganchen?
Well, okay, many long stories, but
yeah.
I mean, I had a very great fortune and privilege in my life that I could work together with Rinpoche, okay, He is my root guru, my mentor, and also my best friend. So I actually met him in 1990 through a friend of mine, Mr. Adler, and she introduced me to him, in England, in Manjusri, near Ulverston. I was already Buddhist. But when I met Rinpoche, it was like a kind of like thunderbolt of recognition. It was like so extraordinary. It's like I'd never seen him before. I didn't really know who he was, but it was just like, I know you, It was so strong.
Wow. So instant feeling. Wow.
Okay, since then I had, but never so strong with anybody else in my life. So it was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how it started. We met like.
And did you meet at the Manjushri Center in England?
No, nearby. We actually met nearby in Ista's house.
I see.
Ista already was with Lama Ganchen.
I see.
So she kindly, I must say, I'll always be grateful to Ista for this, for introducing me.
Yeah. And that instant recognition, incredible. And so how did you then start to study with him?
So after this first kind of wow experience, then of course I wanted to know who he was. So travel is not like it nowadays in that time, so it was a lot more difficult and expensive. Of course, I didn't have any money at the time, so I booked on an airline that was going bankrupt to go to Italy. I bought
hoping they would make it, right?
Yeah, I bought a £30 ticket to Italy. Yeah?
Really? £30.
And the tickets were like 300. Okay, but they had a special offer, £30. Okay, so I went to Milan, wandered around, not knowing where to go. Finally, after disturbing several people, finally got to the right place, to Rinpoche's house.
Really? In Marco Polo?
Yeah, Marco Polo. And then I started to go and come, and then one day I forgot to go home.
I forgot. Really?
It wasn't anything planned. It just happened, It was so incredibly interesting what was happening in the company in the 90s.
Yeah. Was it a few years that you went back and forth, or months?
No, for about a year. And then I suddenly realized I'd moved to Italy without realizing it.
Yeah. It was so natural.
So anyways, I mean, why? Because it was such a fascinating thing that was happening. Rinpoche had created the Kumpan Lama Ganchen Institute for the Diffusion of Tibetan Medicine, He was giving many initiations, and also many great lamas were coming. But also he set up a school of Tibetan medicine and astrology. So it was just wonderful. All the time we had like the most amazing teachings and incredible people coming. So it was just fascinating. I mean, Rinpoche, he was very much wanted to develop Tantra, Tibetan medicine, Tibetan astrology, and yoga. He wasn't actually so bothered about the philosophy, sorry to say, because he felt it was too complicated for Western people.
Yeah.
He wanted practical things that would help.
Yeah, things you could apply to our lives. Yeah, quickly.
For the first year, I was just there, we had many monks, many pujas, and I was just enjoying, basically. Then after 1 year, he suddenly came up to me and announced I was going to be his Dharma secretary.
Yeah, wow.
And I was going to help him write his books. And therefore I should travel around the world with him and help record his teachings, which he called the New Wisdom Vehicle. So, it was a great privilege and wonderful, actually. So I'm very, very glad I had that chance. Best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah, right. What was your first reaction when he said that to you, though?
Well, at first I was a bit taken aback.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, in life you get what you wish for, isn't it? When I first became a Buddhist, when I was around 20, I read The Way of the White Clouds by Lama Govinda, yeah? And I was very much fascinated by all this, wonderful. But then when I went to many, many different Dharma centers, for me, there was always something missing. I wanted what was in that book, you know,
Yeah.
great saints, Mahasiddhas, miracles, rainbows, magic, and actually you get what you wish for. And thanks to Rinpoche, it was all true, you know.
Wow.
One thing that Rinpoche wanted to do is show the power of the Dharma. He said that was one of his roles in the West. He said there's loads and loads of great lamas who can teach, who are good at philosophy. He said, for me, there's no need. What I want to do is show people that the Dharma is true. So like the stuff like The Way of the White Clouds is really true and still happening.
Incredible book. And actually, Lama Caroline, that was one of the motivations of why I wanted to do the podcast was I noticed that many people, they're not reading these incredible books like Autobiography of a Yogi from Yogananda, you know, which talks about all the miracle powers, and then The Way of the White Clouds. I mean, two books that had such a huge impact on my life, and that people aren't reading so much. So to hear these stories through a podcast like what you're sharing about, you know, Lama is so wonderful to bring it to people in an accessible way, these stories.
Actually, Lelia, you know, actually Buddhism originally is from India, right? And it was actually an oral tradition. So things were not originally written down. Everything was spoken, sung, and recorded by memorization. So somehow it's kind of like in the Buddhist tradition, like a podcast, yeah?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Like a spoken thing, you know?
Yeah, we come back to this.
Yeah.
The original.
It's a very long tradition, almost 3,000 years. So we have many revivals.
Yes. Wow, so beautiful. Yeah. So what was it about Lama Ganchen that wanted you to work with him and travel with him? And what did he call you? His computer, right? His mind computer?
Oh, yeah. He called me all kinds of things. His Dharma secretary, his computer. Yeah. Computer's not too bad, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think he was, I mean, you know, fortunately, there are many great lamas in this world, many holy beings, many positive people, which is wonderful. But for me personally, he was the most amazing person I ever met. And I just thought, wow, incredible. I felt a bit like an anthropologist, except I only had one subject. This podcast is called Life with the Lama, right? Yeah?
Life of the Lama Healer.
That was my mission, live with the Lama
Live with the
and
Lama.
find out, what does he think? Because, you know, life's many different things also for lamas. So really, when something happens, what does he do? So that's what I wanted to know. So I spent years following him around.
Yeah.
And actually, I must say, as a result, I developed incredible faith in him based on what I saw, based on my direct experience. Because I saw how he acted. And like, for example, he was incredibly kind and compassionate to everybody. I never saw him like really get angry with anybody. He was always patient. He always put the others first. I mean, I observed him, like, I worked with him for 30 years, okay, like, and traveled all over the world. So I saw him in many different situations and always incredible behavior. He wasn't like, you know, there's a public front or anything like that. He was completely coherent, completely authentic. So, of course, it's fascinating for these saintly people.
Yeah, he was that way in public and in private, right?
Yeah. And also, I think he had like this boundless empathy to everybody and also incredible acceptance. So, like, it doesn't matter who you were, if you're a beggar, you're a billionaire, left side, right side, young, old. He met all kinds of people. Everybody came to see him. But him, everybody was the same, the way he treated them. I found that very fascinating, actually, because we have our own little bubble, you know, our own point of view. We don't get usually to see every kind of person. But with him, everybody was coming and everybody, they were touched by his acceptance and his unconditional empathy and love towards them. I think that's what really attracted people.
Yeah. Everyone was his friend.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I used to say. Just see me, of course, how you like, but please try and see me as your Lama friend. He was definitely the friend to everybody he met. Actually, more than a friend, a healer, everything. Each one, it depended on people's wishes, how they wanted to relate to him.
Yeah. What were the qualities that most stood out for you about Lama Ganchen?
Oh, a huge list. Okay, he had incredible empathy, and also a very strong sense of humor, which helped.
Yes.
Because, you know,
Right.
he accepted all difficulties because he was totally dedicated to others and never complained, you know, even though, actually, you know, his life was very hard, actually, like continuously traveling, continuously helping the others, many difficulties on a personal level. But his life was only about others. He didn't care about himself at all. So it was continuously surrounded by a huge crowd of people, as you know, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, he used to say that he was a method Lama. So he used to say there's many wisdom Lamas who give a lot of teachings and very beautiful and all this, but he said, me, I'm a method Lama. So I bring solutions to people. That's my job. I'm different. That's why he was different. So he used to compare himself to one very famous female yogini called Shungsheb Jetsuma, yeah? Who was very famous yogini. She lived till the middle of the 20th century.
Oh, can you say the name again?
Shungsheb Jetsuma, yeah?
Shumsheb Jetsuma. Okay.
And she was considered an emanation of Machi Glabdran. And she was actually very much like Rinpoche. She was like, okay, she's very just doing practice all day long, incredibly kind. And everybody from the Tibetan government officials to the most humble farmer, they would all come to see her at the same time. So she would have a whole room with all these different people, and to each one was responding to them according to their needs, which is exactly what Rinpoche could do. No?
Yes.
So actually, he talked a lot about her, and recently I found her biography. I found very nice, actually.
Oh, really? I'd like to read that.
Yeah.
Was this the woman who lived in a cave and snakes would come in and she would pacify the snakes? I read some stories about this.
Amongst other things, I mean, she was a very great practitioner.
Yeah.
I think Rinpoche was truly a practitioner of what we call like a lojong of Tonglen. So Tonglen means taking the suffering of others and giving solution to them. So this is a very big Mahayana practice, but he said these days almost nobody can actually do it. He said even if one mosquito bites you, we freak out. So he gave an example of his own life of how to do Tonglen. So I want to read you something that I found on my computer.
Yes.
So the next bit's a quote from Rinpoche, okay?
Yeah, please.
So Rinpoche said, my ears are very good practitioners of taking and giving, because he says, not a single day goes by without me having to listen to other people's problems, yeah? All their negativities and their suffering, people from all over the world, either in person or they phone me. Yeah, there's iPhone. No, never. 2 iPhones, never switched off.
Right.
And he said, I'm the method revealer or the antidote revealer Lama. So he said, my ears have to take and my mouth has to give.
Oh, wow.
So he said, all day long, I have to take. I've got a headache. Rinpoche, I fought with my boyfriend. Rinpoche, there's been an earthquake. Rinpoche, I lost my job. Rinpoche, my hair is going white. Rinpoche, I have no money, and so on and so on and
all
so
the
on.
problems.
In continuation, day and night, okay? So Rinpoche said, this becomes the normal for my ears.
Wow.
So he says, when I'm listening to all this, he says, I say to myself, to Lama Ganchen, don't get upset or nervous or become worried. Just transform it into the positive by giving positive advice, yeah? So he said, I created the karma to use my ears like this, and it's my duty to keep on doing it. So then he said, if you want to use a negative circumstance positively, it depends whether you're open to it. And he says, I Lama Ganchen, make myself open to it. So no matter how bad the situation is, I have the capacity and the energy to keep on giving positive advice.
Incredible.
Because he had friends all over the world, so he used to live in Rinpoche's house in Italy for some time. Even in the night, we could hear the phone going, people from other time zones, and he would pick it up and not like us, say no, or just switch off. And he never switched off. He was always available from big problem to little problem. Really what we call a bodhisattva,
Real bodhisattva. Incredible.
Real saint.
Yeah.
All for free, of course.
Yeah, he was always available to help.
Anyway, so actually another thing he said is that taking the suffering and giving benefit is the basis of the Mahayana. The essence of the Mahayana is to benefit others. He says, our ego feelings don't count. What counts is other people and how much we can benefit them. Yeah? So this is the sort of thing that Rinpoche used to say. He said many incredible things.
Yeah. Obviously, he was such a great master and had this incredible capacity to help other people. Let's say someone, like me who doesn't have this kind of capacity, or, some of our listeners, how could you actually help someone through the wish to help them or through the motivation to help them? Is there a way to practice in this way?
Well, I think Rinpoche always emphasized the human contact, the human feelings, very important. So you have to be as kind and take care as much as you can of that person. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's about feeling, because like I say, with Rinpoche, everybody had this incredible feeling of human warmth and kindness. So I think people are very much missing this. He used to talk about the missing part. In the modern culture, we have so many beautiful things, but we're missing these emotional things. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, prayer and things can help, but I think the actual direct, if possible, emotional contact and take like phone, take care, how are you, you know?
That personal
I
connection.
mean, a lot of the damn teachings, I mean, were actually very simple.
Uh-huh.
It's just how to be a kind person is a lot of it.
Yeah.
Just how to be a nice person, how to really put others first. I mean, not in a forced way, but just because it's the best thing to do. No?
Yeah. Really connect.
One of your listeners asked, "Now, how can we feel joyful when we see all the problems?"
Yeah.
For example, Rinpoche, we do something, let's say somebody had died, funeral and everything. Then we finish everything, all the prayers, then Rinpoche would say, okay, now finished. Then he would go, I don't know, like do something else, like some fun thing.
Uh-huh.
He said, now it's finished, the suffering. One thing he used to say is that when you leave a place, you should leave the suffering behind. Don't carry it with you, so no need to dwell on it. You do everything you can, full 100%, 1000% at that moment. You do your best, but then when you leave, you don't dwell on it. Otherwise, it becomes too much.
I see.
So definitely, he had no problem being very happy, very joyful, and like you said, my ears are this recycle bin of suffering. You
Right.
know? No, but it's not contradictory. When Rinpoche was almost dying, actually, very, very sick, but then he was still saying, anyway, need to enjoy, yeah? So he still was this mind, even when he had the most difficult time of his life. So
Incredible.
that was his attitude. No matter what, anyway, and try to enjoy your life as much as you can. Yeah? Be with the people, do something positive, make life meaningful, be happy.
So, we were saying one of our listeners asked this question of how to be happy in the face of, so much sadness or anxiety. But let's say you are feeling a lot of anxiety from what's happening in the world.
Look, what you have to do is do as much as you can for the others and the environment. I mean, I think if you just spend your time watching the news, you'll definitely feel miserable, depressed, and anxious. It's like very kind of depressing, actually. But then you find something, some association, some charity, something for the environment or the numerous people and animals that need help, and do something. And the more you do, you will feel like I've done the best I can. Then you feel okay, because it's not like, oh, there's no guilt, just feel yes. And then actually also by helping the others, we accumulate what we call punya, positive energy. Yeah? So automatically you feel happy. Yeah? It's calming. Like, for example, if you want to be loved, you have to love somebody else. If you want to be happy, you have to bring happiness to the others, help to the others. So then automatically, as a positive side effect, you feel happy. Yeah? We know how serious the situation is. That's why we spend all our lives trying to do something about it. But anyway, we try to be happy while we're doing it. Because otherwise, also, we don't want people to think Buddhism's a miserable path. It's not actually.
It's not. It's actually an incredibly joyful path.
I mean, the Buddhists are only interested in analyzing suffering so we can get rid of it. We want to be happy, and peaceful and joyful.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, that's Lama Karen. Could you address that? Because some people say to me, well, Buddhists, you talk a lot about suffering and you talk a lot about death. How can you say it's such a joyful path when they talk so much about suffering? Can you explain that?
I mean, these things are part of life, so we need to know what to do about it. I think that's quite natural,
Mm-hmm.
I think for a start, people don't really know what Buddhism is. It's so much more huge than what's generally thought. It's a whole culture, 3,000-year-old culture, which spans like 1 billion people and many, many different countries, cultures, and languages. So it's so many things. It's not one thing.
Right. So deep.
But I mean, definitely from Tibetan Buddhism, actually, we embrace happiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of our path. But of course, we have to be realistic. Yes, unfortunately, we are going to die. So what we're going to do about it? Then we train in the methods to die in a positive way. Of course, there's suffering, so let's find out what to do and alleviate that. Like one of the many projects Rinpoche wanted was to do a series of books called Overcoming the Four Sufferings of Aging, Sickness and Death and Birth, taking care of children. And inside these books actually is full of solutions, what to do. It's not just being miserable. With this, we don't need to read a book.
Right. We already experience it every day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he had very, very interesting ideas about, how to face life in a positive way.
One thing that I noticed, though, is that this word suffering, because I remember when I first started studying Buddhism, this word suffering was like, well, suffering. It really made me stop and think, what is suffering? I think for many people, the anxieties that we feel, the stresses that we feel, the fear that we feel, the worry, we don't necessarily think that that's suffering. But from a Buddhist point of view, this is part of our suffering, right?
Well, in Tibetan, the word for suffering is dug nyel. Yeah, dug means pain, and nyel means emotional discomfort. So it's like physical pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing Rinpoche used to say a lot is that, of course, we didn't read the small print well of life.
Yeah.
So naturally, sooner or later, we will get sick, we will have pain, something will happen, but that's just normal, it's natural. So the Buddha, he gave this example. He said, one day you're going to be shot, yeah, by an arrow. Yes, let's imagine an archer shoots you, but he said no need to be shot by 2 arrows.
Mm.
One day it'll have toothache or something, but no need of the mental preoccupation as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in Buddhism, one of the things that we do is try and teach people how to deal with their mental anxiety, so then their body can get on with healing itself.
Yeah.
Yes, we have this whole Buddhist psychology to help people feel anxious, but I tell you, if you want to feel less anxious, do something for others.
Yeah. Immediately puts you in a more calm state or more happy state.
We live in a very privileged situation, we in the first world. But I think people sometimes they have too much, let's say, time to be worried about themselves. Because from the Buddhist point of view, it's self-preoccupation is the root of emotional suffering. So the more we think of the others, less time we have for ourselves, and automatically the neurosis is going away because we don't have so much space for it.
Beautiful. Do you have an example that you could share with us? I'm sure you have hundreds of them, but in a story of how Rinpoche helps someone to overcome, their mental sicknesses or anxieties or fears.
I think the entire Sangha, no?
Yeah. But could you share with us a story that kind of stands out in your mind about this?
Just trying to think, there were so many. No, Rinpoche was a healer, so many, many, many people came to him sick in body and mind.
Yeah.
So many people who were diagnosed as mentally ill. Rinpoche used to do one practice called Vajrapani, which is to pacify the mind,
Mm-hmm.
to make the mind stable and strong, not to be fearful. So when Rinpoche used to do that, all the crazy people, they used to turn up in the Gompa, in our meditation hall, and were all completely quiet.
Really? When he would do Vajrapani initiation?
Yes, very, very peaceful, very happy, yeah, okay. Because he's developed like this very strong, compassive bodhisattva mind, actually not just his life, over many lifetimes. So he had this immediate ability to pacify people. So yes, I saw this hundreds and hundreds of times that people would be pacified and become happy in his presence.
Incredible.
But the thing is, Rinpoche, he wanted all of us to be able to do what he can do, okay? That's why he left all these teachings.
Mm.
Otherwise, no need to share.
Mm-hmm.
Because all this is possible for everybody to develop, but obviously you just need to apply the right method.
Father, your holy body and my body. Father, your holy speech and my speech. Father, your holy mind and my mind. Bless me so they become inseparable and of the same nature. Mother, your holy body and my body. Mother, your holy speech and my speech. Mother, your holy mind and my mind. Bless me so they become inseparable and of the same nature.
One of the things that was so extraordinary about him is that he gave us these tools, so many tools that we could, if we applied them and practiced them and used them, then we keep growing our own capacity to help and heal other people. It was so many tools that he gave us.
Well, in fact, this is why Rinpoche in the early 90s started to share self-healing, and also tantric self-healing. When Rinpoche went into exile in the 60s, first he went to Sikkim and then to India.
After he left Tibet.
He was working as a healer within the Tibetan community, first India, Sikkim, and then in Switzerland. And he became very, very famous for healing people. Like, I don't know, he cured the Queen Mother of Sikkim's blindness, for example. He healed many people. Also, he could do, I don't know, restore the land. He could do incredible things, like he could change the weather. One Italian friend, Giussi Gardenghi, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So she said, you know what? I'm going to go and die by the Ganges. I'm not going to stay here miserable in Italy. So then she went to India, and actually she met Rinpoche in Goa, where he was at that time. And then he cured her, basically. Her cancer went into strong remission, let's say, for 30 years.
Wow.
And for the next 30 years, she started an Ayurveda business. She got married. She had a full life and only passed away just before the pandemic. So anyway, so Juicy, she obviously was very happy and she thought, wow, amazing, no? Then she wanted to invite Rinpoche to Italy. Them said, like me, there's many, no? So please come to Europe. So then Rinpoche came to Greece, to Italy, and then it started. And also then he started to travel around the world, Western and Asian world, as a healer, and as a tantric master, sharing healing meditations. And then after 10 years, which brings up to the early 90s, then he was visiting Borobudur, Mr. Kok.
Yes, from Malaysia.
Wonderful friend, Mr. Kok from Malaysia.
Yes.
He wanted to invite Rinpoche to see the Borobudur Mandala in Java in Indonesia. So we're together with like 5-6 people from Kuala Lumpur. They went to see. So they went one time. It's before everything was developed.
It's the first time he went.
The Indonesians call it a dead monument, right? But it's not. Rinpoche went there, so it's a mandala, okay, of all the holy Buddhas. So Rinpoche was meditating there, and he had a vision of his guru, Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche, many, many Buddhas, and he asked permission to his guru, who had passed away. Yeah? Rinpoche's guru, Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche, passed away just before Rinpoche came to Europe in the early 80s. So anyway, Ganchen Rinpoche asked permission to Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche and all his other masters and the Buddhas, if it would be possible, to open the Ganden tradition, special holy tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, to many new people like us. He said, because now the situation's too serious. The environment is terrible. There's overpopulation, there's war, there's famine, there's so much corruption, so many difficulties. Lord Buddha made all this to help society. Okay, so now we need it to be more open, not just kept. Okay, it's been kept very beautifully, in the Himalayas and the monastic colleges, but he said now is the time we need to be more open. So then Rinpoche came back from there, together with Kozila, with one piece of paper with 5 Buddhas and the mantras of the Dhyani Buddhas. And then he gave me this piece of paper and said, we're going to make a book. I was like, okay.
Wow.
That's how it started, yeah?
Really?
Like my job with Rinpoche. Okay, Rinpoche.
Uh-huh.
So actually, at the time, he was not speaking much English. So I thought, okay, this will not take very long. We mainly used to sing, no? We used to do in the Kumpan, no, in Milano. We used to do puja every night, like White Tara puja for long life, Medicine Buddha puja, Upanachen Rezi, Green Tara, these kind of things. Then we would sing mantras for about 2 hours, and then we would order a pizza. I'd eat pizza. That's what we did every single night, okay?
Wow, beautiful.
Without fail. So I thought, almost never says anything, can't hardly speak English. I thought, this will not take very long, this book.
Yeah.
So I got like a pocket notebook, this tiny one.
Yeah.
I'd come with this little pocket notebook. I said, okay, Rinpoche, I'm ready. Here, you could tell me what you want to say. So then you start. And they start with Om Muni Muni Maha.
And you're handwriting it.
Of course, we didn't have computers.
Computers, yeah.
They hadn't arrived yet in our world. Om
Yes.
Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakti Muni Asoha. And then start and never stop.
Incredible. 30 years later, you're still writing.
Yeah. There's still so much to do.
Lama Caroline, though, how did you understand Rinpoche? Because his English, it was not so good in those days. How did you understand him?
Well, one thing was I was already a Buddhist. So I'd already studied Buddhism for 5 years, so that helped.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I think we just had maybe I had very good concentration or just a very strong personal connection.
Yeah.
So I just found it so fascinating. And he told me to write down everything he said because he said, in the future, people are going to need this. I'm glad I actually took it seriously, and I did. So I used to follow him around with big notepads and I used to write down.
And write everything down.
Everything,
Wow.
whatever he said about anything, yeah. Okay, for 10 years. Okay, then after 10 years, then I started to travel and teach, so then it wasn't possible, But yes, so now I'm so grateful he made me do that because now it's such an incredible Rinpoche's thoughts on everything, okay, basically.
Incredible.
If anybody's listening who's interested, I need help actually to bring all this out. I mean, we published few things with Rinpoche, but still a lot is to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a small group of wonderful friends who can translate, who edit, who spend a lot of time helping, really incredible, so devoted. But actually, we need more help. So if there's anybody who can translate, who's got time to transcribe, any this kind of help or imagination, very welcome. Sorry to say, but if anybody has any money to sponsor, because before,
Yeah.
money was no problem because Rinpoche was so wonderful. There was no problem. Whatever he wanted to
Yeah.
do, the money was coming now. But now Rinpoche's paranirvana. So if anybody would like to know what Rinpoche actually said, if you make a donation to the Peace Publications, then we'd be very happy to publish. Rinpoche made me promise I would do his collected works, yeah, his sumbum. That means 100,000 proclamations, and actually it is more or less 100,000 proclamations on all different subjects. Yeah?
Sumbum. Okay, well, that's a call to action for our listeners. If you'd like to help Lama Caroline in this initiative, please reach out to us. We'll have some links in our description.
If anybody is interested, please, okay, American friends, please speak to Lelia, or you can speak to Sharon Dawson, who's a wonderful Bodhisattva friend, you know. She's years working on Rinpoche things, and she also runs the Help in Action. So if you want to contact her directly.
Okay, we'll put the link in the description as well.
When Rinpoche passed away, you know, really, for me, it was honestly the worst time of my life. Really, never experienced anything like that.
Right, such a shock.
Also, a big shock, you know, because he was such an incredible, strong person and a great healer. But actually, it's kind of like he traded his life for our life. Rinpoche died of COVID, which was like impossible for us emotionally because he'd healed so many people of cancer, of AIDS, of everything. He'd done incredible things. Impossible was always possible with Rinpoche. But it's kind of like in Italy, now in Albagnano, there's the hamlet of Albagnano, the next village of Bay. So when the COVID came from China to Europe, the first place was Milan and Bergamo because of the connection with the fashion, no, with the textiles, yeah.
Got hit really hard.
Each day it was coming up the mountain, like we heard this report, this people's sick, this one's sick, and I just said to Rinpoche, what are we going to do? And he just said, well, everybody has their own karma, we just need to see. Nothing to do. Everybody, according to their own karma, what will happen. But when the first wave of the pandemic came, half of Albagnano and Bay was with COVID. First wave, like sick.
Yeah, really sick.
Incredibly, out of these 1,000 people, and also not just our community, no, we also have like Italian neighbours, also very old people, sick people, people who were intubed in comas, so they all recovered except Rinpoche.
Really?
Yeah, incredible, you know.
And you had COVID also during that time, right?
Yes, and also I wasn't sure what it was, but I thought, this is bad. So I locked myself in my house. But then Rinpoche would have people sending food, medicine. He's like, I'm coming. I say, no way, you're not coming. We don't know what this is.
Yeah, there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah, but basically we think Rinpoche traded his life for our lives. And for him, that would be completely logical in how he thinks. He only thought about other people.
Yes. So he took on the sicknesses of other people, like absorbed all that COVID, and then he left his body with COVID.
Which actually he could do because you see, okay, maybe a normal meditator, we cannot do, no? But he can do, you know, to a certain very high level of the path, you can do stuff like that. So he had the ability to do it and did it.
Yeah. There was this incredible story in the autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda, where this woman saint from India was going down in a carriage through this field, like a rice field. And there were these workers working on the field. And one man was beating this other man on his back, trying to get him to work harder. And he was whipping his back, and his back was bare. It was in probably south of India. And had all these welts on his back from this man whipping him. And this woman saint saw this because she was such a high master and had this incredible compassion. These welts appeared on her back. The blood is oozing out, and she absorbed the suffering from this man to herself. And of course, then, they transform it, right?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. Yeah.
Incredible, these stories.
What people have to understand, these are not stories, these are true experiences.
True
yeah?
experiences,
It's just that,
yes.
Just most people have never met anybody like that, but these things are actually true. Like, I saw so many things with Rinpoche. That's why I have unshakable faith in him. All this is true,
Yeah, you have direct experience of it all. Do you have another story, just again to help people to see that what is possible? Another story that you normally would say, wow, this is such a miracle about Rinpoche and the way he worked and the way he healed people.
Okay, I've seen throughout the world how people's lives are improved by Rinpoche's methods, self-healing, and also very nice is you don't have to be a Buddhist to do it. They emphasize that a lot, yeah? Everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
One thing that Rinpoche did, which was very kind, is he brought many people into the Dharma, into the spiritual path, who maybe would not have entered normally. But because he was kind, he took care of them, then they became interested in spirituality. I mean, there's many stories, no? Like, for example, in India, or before he came to the West, Rinpoche was very famous in the Himalayas for doing what's called poa, which is the transference of consciousness. So at that time, when the Tibetans, some of the Tibetans, went into exile in India, they had like all the terrible jobs. So one of the jobs they used to do was build roads in the Himalayas, and they used to use dynamite. So it was very dangerous. Yeah, many of them used to get killed. So Rinpoche, he taught them how to do poa. So then if they can blow themselves up and they have just a few minutes left, they can die in a positive way. So he became very famous for that.
Really interesting.
Also, he was very famous for curing people's eyes. I said he healed the Queen of Sikkim's blindness. Rinpoche had certain practices he was very famous for doing, and something called open eye chinrezi to heal the eyes was one of them. So, like me personally, even though, of course, we've received many times the initiation, I'd never done the retreat until after Rinpoche passed away. So then I did it. I thought, better do it now.
Yeah.
And actually, when I did it, to do a mantra, the practice, and one of my eyes filled completely with blood. And it's kind of, oh, my eye has gone all red, full of blood. Yeah, okay, but then it healed. Then later on afterwards, I went to the optician and I said, oh, I need a new pair of glasses. I'm astigmatic. And then he said, no, you're not.
Wow.
He said, yes, I am. I've always been astigmatic. He said, no, you're not. So I'm not astigmatic anymore. Yeah?
Anymore. Wow, that practice, the open eye chinrezi, healed.
Yeah, amazing. And I personally know many people who had terminal diagnosis who lived for many decades more with Rinpoche's methods of healing, his prayers, his support.
Yes.
I saw many, many times that he could change the weather, which is a pretty useful thing, actually, needed. Like if there was not enough rain, he could bring it. If there's too much, he could stop it. That's super useful, yeah. I wish I'd learned how to do that one.
Yeah. I witnessed that at Tunjan Rinpoche's place one time in Vermont. We were sitting around the table just talking after lunch and just relaxing and enjoying, and he and Tunjan Rinpoche were talking. And then all of a sudden, the skies just opened up and these torrential rains came down. And the feeling was that the rain was literally taking away anything that was needed to be purified. It was as if it was just this massive cleansing. And that went on for, I don't know, about a half an hour. And then it cleared and then the sun came out and we all had this feeling that the elements had been transformed. It was very beautiful.
Definitely. So speaking about the elements, so Rinpoche was really, really, really concerned about the elements. One of the main bases of his teaching was this, how to recognize and take care of and purify and strengthen the 5 elements: space, water, wind, earth, and fire. And so actually he was one of the first lamas to be an environmentalist.
Yeah, way before.
Yeah, no, he was like, we must do this practice. We must take care of the elements, the environments. Without the elements, we cannot live. And he was, since all the time I knew him, was very, very, very on to this theme of we must protect the natural environment. Another thing he was doing towards the end of his life, actually throughout his life, was tree planting. Yeah, in Tibet he planted 30,000 trees. But his last project, actually, before he passed away, was to plant a forest here in Spain in the Alpahara Mountains. To start, well, now we have to continue.
Yeah, at the Seringjang retreat place.
Yeah. So now we have 11 hectares of forest to plant. That was good. Happy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one story about America, about New York, for our American listeners. So when Ganchen Rinpoche was young, he was the Dharma assistant of a great Lama called Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche, very great master, okay? And one day, Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche said to the other group of young Lamas who were there, he was always very hard on Ganchen Rinpoche. And then he turned around to the other ones, he said, you lot, you won't even reach where Lama Ganchen poos, okay?
Really?
then Ganchen Rinpoche said, I wonder what he means by that,
Right, interesting thing.
One day, many decades later, he was in the United Nations headquarters in New York, and he was sat in the bathroom, and then he thought, now I know what my guru meant.
Really?
Yeah, because he was the first Tibetan Lama ever to have an NGO recognized by the United Nations. Yeah? So he reached
Lama Ganchen World Peace Foundation.
Yeah. So actually, Dzong Rinpoche was right.
The only Tibetan who has an NGO, only Tibetan Lama.
Yeah.
So when he came out of the bathroom, he told you this story?
Yes,
Yeah?
he did.
I had a realization on the can.
Yeah, he did actually.
Yeah.
We used to laugh a lot. Yeah, he had a very, very strong sense of humor.
Yeah. It helped to have joy, to experience joy, but then also helped to, if you were going through something that he was showing you and integrating some kind of teaching into your life, some of these deeper realizations, he'd say something really funny to make it, much lighter and to keep our minds open.
Unforgettable.
Yeah.
What you're doing with this podcast is really, really good, and you need to continue forever because there's an infinite amount of fascinating stories.
Yes.
And gradually you get people to talk and bring it out because it's too much. Just if you sit down, it just never finishes.
Yeah, he touched so many people's lives. And as you said, so many people's lives in all walks of life.
That was one fascinating thing.
Yeah.
All those people that cannot be together. Society is so polarized, and around him they could be together,
Yeah, everyone came together. Everyone was welcome.
Yeah, and that's a very important part of our ethos. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome, no politics.
Yeah, right.
Not here, please.
Yeah. No politics. This is all about increasing our love and our compassion and our ability to help each other. I'm sure you had hundreds of these moments of awe. I love this word, awe. Was there one that kind of stands out for you, this moment of awe when you were with Rinpoche?
Oh, there were many. Look, Rinpoche could bring the divine. He's called Albaniano, the temple of heaven on earth. Around him, the divine, let's say, manifested actually quite frequently, actually, which was like very awe-inspiring indeed. For example, all the time there were incredible like rainbow light shows appearing in a way that's not possible because many times it wasn't even raining. So we saw all shapes, triangular, square, vertical, moonbows, balls, everything. He always wanted us to record this, but at the time we didn't have the technology. So now you just have to take our word for it, okay? But that's how it was. Also, like many times Rinpoche had a different vision from the other people. It's definitely not the normal kind of person. So many times he would say, now this Buddha is here, maybe in the sun. Sometimes all of us could see, actually.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a group hallucination. We could actually see it. Of course, that's totally mind-blowing and awe-inspiring and it just changes your life.
Yeah.
Actually, another thing is, Lilia, another thing that Rinpoche wanted to do, he said, of course, I Lama Ganchen, I must die. Everybody dies. The Buddha died. But he said, what I'm going to do when I die is I'm going to prove to you all that death is not the end, that reincarnation is true, yeah? So I think that's pretty awesome. So when Rinpoche passed into the clear light in 2020.
Yeah, April 2020.
For a start, there was like this incredible rainbows, like all over the world at the same time, circular rainbows. Why? Because his consciousness. Incredible.
What do you mean consciousness? Because there were these spectacular circles around the sun that appeared everywhere.
Yeah, this was Rinpoche, say it's the clear light mind, the mind of an enlightened being. So it's affecting the physical reality. And it appears simultaneously all around the world and appeared to many people who knew him. Also, there appeared golden lights, things were moving, in people's houses.
Yeah, we had many of these experiences here. Actually, on the website, under gurubuddha.org, we'll put the link in the description. There's photos of these incredible rainbows all around the world, and you could see them on this website.
Look, so Rinpoche, he died, passed away, but actually it became quite apparent pretty quickly that he was not dead in the normal way.
Right.
Just out of his body, Since then, he's continued to guide people through dreams, and actually his blessing and inspiration became even stronger than it was before somehow. So I think that's an incredible healing for our society, Death is not the end, and actually Rinpoche
showed us very strongly.
Is still there. Like, for example, after he died, everyone have their own experience. Now, one thing is, I dreamt that Rinpoche told me to record what was happening after his death, all the events surrounding his death and his journey to his new life. So then I asked people, please tell me your experience, your dream, what about Rinpoche? And incredible. I might have been there 30 years with Rinpoche, but really, I don't know what people's connection is with Rinpoche. So everybody had such a powerful connection. It was amazing.
Really incredible.
And also, like many people from, like Patagonia, from Cuba, from all over the place were telling me, I have this dream of this Lama with a beard doing this and that, and moon rays coming out. And it's absolutely Rinpoche. So I think out the body, and, he liked to fly around. So now I don't need to pay.
Much easier, not bound by a body or a plane. Right?
And also, one thing that I noticed, because like I say, I've made it my mission to ask people, is many people who had only met Rinpoche like a little, who live far away, they were getting a lot of connection with Rinpoche. Because I think Rinpoche was like, good, now I can be more with those people.
Yes.
Because, look, if we think about this, if it's true that death is not the end, it looks very much like it's not. Then there's so many implications about that, how we act, about compassion. If this is just one life, like we're here in this guest house and we have to leave, so then I start to think very differently. Also, it means the Dharma is true. Rinpoche, that was one of his missions. And like I say, it's not finished yet. We'll see gradually. In the future, when we have our Yangtze Rinpoche, one day we'll have that.
Yes, to see him reborn. But really showing us that there is no death, which is so powerful. It really changes your whole worldview when you consider that we're temporarily in this house, our body, and that consciousness continues from life to life.
Also, our relationship with others. We love our parents so much, but then we have many parents. This is actually true, no? Incredible.
Yeah.
No? One thing that His Holiness Kyabje Trijang Chokchul Rinpoche, when after Ganchen Rinpoche passed away, he immediately wrote to us. And he said, even though the Guru's body comes and goes, this is actually the truth. Before we didn't really understand, but I think now we're starting to get the actual experience. I mean, it's not, honestly, I would prefer not to have the experience, but anyway,
yeah,
that's life. We got
it's
it.
Life. Right, right. As you oftentimes say, that's the prescription that you signed up for, but you didn't realize that you signed it.
Well, yeah, quite.
The reality of our life, right? Right.
Rinpoche physically is gone, okay, but it's not gone yet.
No, I feel him so close all the time.
Personally, what I find is the path that I was trying to walk with him is still developing. He left us like a trail of gold, full of blessings. So.
Oh, I love that. A trail of gold. I love that.
And gradually it's revealing itself. So Rinpoche left everything for us. Just need to just continue. Just do the same thing. Just do my practices.
Mm-hmm.
You want to meet me? Do the practice. There we will connect with Rinpoche, okay? Yeah, also, by the way, if somebody has never met Rinpoche, it doesn't matter anyway. The blessing is there, the energy is there, you know. Many High Lamas, for example, Kyabje Pabonka Rinpoche, he made that quite clear, you know. So if you never met Rinpoche, no problem. Anyways, this is like a stream of blessings, so strong like the Amazon River. So if you want to
beautiful
join, welcome. If you connect, please do.
Beautiful. It's open for everyone. Wow, I love this conversation with Lama Caroline. And we will continue with part 2 of our conversation with her because she's filled with so much rich wisdom and how to apply Lama Ganchen's teachings to our everyday life. So stay tuned for part 2. And if you have a question for us, you can ask us a question at lamahealer.com. Follow us on Facebook at Life with a Lama Healer. And stay tuned for part 2 with Lama Caroline. Thanks for joining us, Lama Ken.